All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the final round one match of the GSA Super Metroid 80% Tournament 2018. Tonight's matchup is between ShinyZeni and ElminsterRTA. I am joined on commentary by Adam Ferrari 64. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you, Kip. It's a pleasure to be here with you commentating this fine match, wrapping up round one. I'm looking forward to it, man. How you
Yeah.
feeling?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I'm still feeling pretty good. I had my race earlier, which was a lot of fun, and thank you for doing commentary on it. So we get to speak to each other again here, and we also have two really, very very good runners. The Super Metroid community racing tonight. ElminsterRTA is the 11 seed for this tournament out of 16 entries, and he is one of the most veteran players that we have in all the Super Metroid community. A really excellent runner, very educated on multiple routes, multiple categories, and a lot of ROM hacks and things like that. And then also ShinyZeni, who is a great 80% runner and is also our RBO world record holder and will be running at GDQ here in a few months. So let's see if we can get these guys in for a pre-race interview. We'll start with Elminster. Elm, are you there?
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, man. How are you this evening?
Great,
RBO
excited.
world record holder, and we'll be running. Yeah, we're excited to watch you run. So, I know you've been playing Super Metroid for a really long time. You've been in a lot of tournaments featuring Super Metroid and also randomizer and stuff like that. So, in terms of this 80% tournament, you would probably know almost better than anybody since you've been around for quite a while. Is this the first money Super Metroid tournament that you've ever?
Yes, actually, I don't think there have been any others, to my knowledge.
Gotcha. So basically, what you're saying is we
Wow.
finally made it, right?
Yeah, Wii Sports.
So cool. Yeah. So, Elm, right now you're actually involved in multiple tournaments across a lot of different things. You're running Super Metroid, doing some Link to the Past stuff and whatnot. Tell me a little bit about your perspective on 80% since you know so much about the different categories. When you're running an 80% run, what are the kind of main things that you're trying to focus on and think of?
Oh man, okay, 80% for me is like it's the run that everyone, it's the main category, so it's the run that everyone has run into the ground the most relative to the others for most people. So when I'm running 80%, I'm kicking myself for like every single little mistake and stressing over being like 10 seconds ahead at G4 or whatever, and other categories usually a bit more chill.
Well, that's cool, man. I totally understand. Plus, 80% has a lot of risk in it, depending on how you approach it. And I'm looking forward to the race tonight. So thank you for doing a pre-race interview with us. We'll try to get you after the race is over. ShinyZeni, are you there? I was going to ask you a few questions as well.
Yes, I am.
Zeni, how are you tonight, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great, thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, you're the 6th seed in this tournament. You have I believe a 43, 46 or somewhere in that ballpark PB, which is a great time, but you are the world record holder of RBO, which I know you've been doing a lot of work on in preparation for your GDQ run here pretty shortly. So whenever you're jumping between categories, like when you're kind of doing a lot of prep for RBO, but then you kind of have to de-rust 80% stuff like that, what are kind of the main concerns you have or kind of main things you like to focus on?
So that's actually something that's really hard for me. I almost didn't even join the tournament just because of it, but I figured I'd do it anyway and try and have some fun. I really tend to get strats mixed up, and so if you see me doing something kind of weird, it might be intentional, but it might not really. So yeah, but yeah, I like 80%. I didn't used to be a very big fan of it, but we had our 80% tournament this past summer, and I joined that, and I actually really enjoyed it. So,
well, that's good, man. Looking forward to a good tournament from you, and I totally understand your perspective on mixing up strats. I mix up 80% and low percent strats all the time, so my main advice to you tonight is don't try to spin jump into any key hunters, okay?
Okay.
Since you won't be having that the screw attack in this run.
No screw attack, yeah.
But thank you guys for doing the pre-race interview. I'll let you guys chill for a minute and get ready for your run. And good luck to both of you. So as I mentioned prior to the interviews, this is the last round one match. Let's just do a quick review of what the results have been. This is a double elimination tournament, so everybody who happens to lose in the first round is not completely out of the tournament. Tonight we had Zost defeated Freya Spirit. Zost is our #1 seed, so he will be moving on to the second round, and he will be facing Robattalion, who defeated a real cutie in the first round. And then in the next two matches, Scotty McBody defeated Farrell SR, and he will be facing Lynx X Unlimited, who defeated Insane Firebat. Next, we had Toasty Muffins, who got the win over Oats and Goats, but I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I think the Oats and Goats loss was due to a disqualification, unfortunately.
It was a DQ. Yeah, it was a DQ. He didn't respond in time.
Couldn't get his race scheduled in time. So I think everybody here, though, understands that Oats is an incredibly elite runner, and no matter if he's in the loser's bracket or not, it's going to be incredibly difficult to beat him. So you never know what'll happen, but it wouldn't surprise me at all for him to win, every single match all the way back to the end of the loser's bracket. So and so Toasty Muffins will actually. Oh, what's that?
I was gonna say that's definitely something that I would bet on. And speaking of betting, I want to shout out Vi, our sponsor, Vi.gg. You can bet on the runners. So someone like Oats and Goats, you think he's gonna go all the way? Bet on him. Maybe make some money if you're in legal age and resident.
Yeah, it's a good point. You guys can find the link to that by typing !bet, B-E-T, and it should give you the link. We're very happy to be sponsored by Vi, and it's very cool of them to put money down on a Super Metroid tournament, so we're all excited about that. If I recall correctly, I think the top 4 finishers win, some portion of the money, with obviously, first getting the most and then so on. But so Toasty Muffins will move on to that portion of the bracket, and he will actually face me next week. Tonight I had my race with Traffic Talks. And then the last runner that we mentioned, Sloters27, defeated Typo in the first round, and the winner tonight between ShinyZeni and Elminster will face Sloters. So we will be counting down for the race here shortly, and look forward to the start of this thing. I'll turn it over to our controller here, and we'll get this thing rolling.
All right, good luck, runners. I look forward to see if you go up or down at red. So yeah, both runners very experienced. We could see some pro route. We could also see classic route. Both runners very familiar with both routes. So when they get to the red tower, if they go up, we know they're doing the advanced route, and if they go down, we know they're doing Kraid first and doing the classic route. So that's about what, 10 minutes in? Nah, not 10. It's like 7 or 8. Yeah, 7 or 8 minutes in. So we'll definitely see what's going on.
Yeah, it looks like we'll be getting started here very shortly. Just to kind of piggyback on what Adam's talking about here, typically these routes are referred to as old route and new route. Even though it's called new route, it's actually several years old. It's just that it's a newer route relative to what the traditional way was. Old route is kind of like the quote-unquote intended way, maybe to run the game in terms of the boss order. You'd go Kraid, Phantoon, Dragon, and then Ridley. New route starts with Phantoon first, then goes to Ridley, then Kraid, then Dragon. New route is definitely faster if you are trained to be able to pull off a lot of the really tough strats. I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes people think new route is automatically faster. It's actually not. New route is only faster if you're able to actually execute a lot of really tough things. So when people first start new route, it's typically slower than their old route PBs. But once you kind of get conditioned for it, you can save some time on routing and pathing. But
Yeah.
the flip side is old route does have one advantage in a race scenario. When you're only racing against one other person, it's a lot more difficult.
Couple of nice series times there from both runners, making their way out of the station and to planet Zeb. Experiencing a little technical difficulty. Kip will be right back with.
Oh, okay. Was I not heard there?
Yeah, just for a second. Probably like 10 seconds. No big deal. All you missed was the from Siri Station to Planet Zebus. No big deal. Welcome back, man.
Okay, sorry about that. I think my Discord got disconnected for just a second. So yeah, here we are on the planet here. We're gonna head down and grab Morphing Ball. I know ShinyZeni utilizes Moonfall. I can't remember if Elm does or not. Let's.
Shiny messed that up a little bit, but he got a nice little backup there. And you see how much time Moonfall saves. He still reached the door before Elm, who elected not to moon.
Yeah, that's a good point. Elm opted not to use it. Moonfall is something that is a kind of a relatively new development in the game. You can basically uncap your fall speed in certain areas by using the moonwalk feature of the game. It was only discovered, I believe, about a year and a half ago. So some runners have opted to incorporate it. Some haven't, because even though it does save time in certain areas, it can actually make certain areas a little bit more complicated. So looks like Elm is running the old school way, and ShinyZeni will probably utilize a few places where he'll get a few more moonfalls, but there's not a ton of them to use. The primary one is there in that first climb room, so he saved about 4 seconds by using it there.
Yeah, it kind of came about because Oates had the any percent world record for the longest time, and people were just looking for new ways to kind of make it easier to maybe lower the any percent world record. You see Shiny here getting an extra missile pack. I haven't seen that yet in the tournament.
Okay, it looks like Zenny is going. I wonder if he did this on purpose or if he just like forgot what he was doing, because that is a move that he makes when he's trying some of his world record runs in RBO. So I wonder if he just sort of forgot what category he was running there and the muscle memory was a little too strong. Or maybe he was just memeing it up or something. I'm not 100% sure. But either way, Elm using the classic wall jump climb. I don't actually remember. I think Zenny uses the same one. There's been a development lately of a lot of people using the ledge grab climbs, sort of made popular by Behemoth. Yeah, and so as we can see, both of these guys do the more traditional way. Neither one of them is necessarily better or worse. It just kind of depends on what you're comfortable with. Each runner kind of has their own feel for it. So looks like both of these guys like it with the shooting and the wall jumping.
Yeah, basically there's no difference in time. It's just I always thought the Behemoth climb looked a lot better, cooler, but it's just one of those things that's runner preference. So it's one of those things that defines a runner, sort of. You know, some runners do it, some runners do the classic climb instead.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool, fun parts about this game is a lot of the tech and the strats are so complicated that there's many ways to get through each one of these rooms. And while there might be sort of a TAS, fastest strat, it also comes down to how much risk you want to take, how much, consistency you want to have. So there's really just a plethora of ways to choose to run this game. And the climb is one of those examples of people running different strats for different purposes.
Yeah, and I think you're right about Shiny making a mistake.
I'm sorry, Adam, go ahead.
Very slow to get in any percent. I was just saying that missile pack that Shiny got, I think that was a mistake. I think it was just muscle memory kicking in.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that he did it on purpose. Maybe he just wanted to have a little bit of extra ammo, maybe for the beginning of the game. And then I think like that, I don't know the full scope of it, but you can actually grab that E-tank in the ceiling right at the beginning. It's really difficult though. I think it's like several frame perfect inputs or something like that. So maybe he was just going to go ahead and try to grab it, and then if he didn't get it on the first try, he was just going to move on.
Interesting. Definitely adding a little spice to this race for sure. Something I did not expect.
Yeah, that was neat to see. It's also really cool when it happens in RBO. You wouldn't really think that you could grab that item so early, but it is possible actually. So here, Elminster going to go after the sort of first major sequence break of the run here, grabbing early supers. As most people know, this is the main trick that allows runners of this game to skip Spore Spawn. Spore Spawn is a mini-boss that usually guards the first super missile pack in the game, but by utilizing this trick, they can maintain their run speed, keep their hitbox very small, and actually get under those gates before they're intended to. Usually the game, in terms of casual play, it expects you to have speed booster to get across there. So really cool thing. Now they're going to make their way to Big Pink to pick up, I would assume, the charge missiles and charge beam. As you mentioned before, Adam, charge beam is one of those like really core items for the run. It's where the primary damage will be coming from throughout.
The charge beam is so essential. There's so many things you can't do without charge beam. You can't do a pseudo screw. You can't do X factors, for example, with the wave beam. And you can't do any percent. You can't, the Mother Brain 2 fight, you don't have any missiles to kill Mother Brain, so you have to just use charge shot. So probably one of the most important things to find. And like in a rando, for example, like the charge beam is probably one of the best items to have right off the bat.
You make a great point. I feel like sometimes people don't, it's not overly apparent to them that charge beam is fantastic until they do a rando and you don't have it.
Yeah, because a lot of people think, well, charge beam, I'm just going to get, plasma eventually. Plasma is, so OP, but it's really nothing unless you can charge it up.
Okay, it looks like both runners are going to Fantoon first. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to run new route, Fantoon, Ridley, Kraid, Dragon, but they are both going to go Fantoon first, so we will see how that plays out for both of them. Looks like ShinyZeni has been able to catch up a good bit here. He's maybe about 5 seconds ahead or so. They're going to grab their first and probably only power bomb pack of the run, and then head up to fight Fantoon, which will be very dangerous on only one energy tank and no suits. All of Fantoon's flames and Fantoon's body will do 40 damage per shot. So it's very easy to die if he doesn't give you some good patterns. But before that, you want to explain a little bit about the moat here, Adam? I know this is a part that's a big piece of this puzzle here.
Oh yeah, the moat coming up. So there's 2 ways to cross it in this route. There's a continuous wall jump you can do, which involves a frame perfect input followed by, I believe, a 2-frame window on the wall jump, from what I've heard. And there's also the horizontal bomb jump, which in my opinion is actually harder. Yet you see that as the kind of the backup to CWJ. Runners get one or the other, and they're both extremely hard strats. So we could see a lot of time lost between one runner or the other in this moat coming up right now.
Yeah, this is a huge choke point. Unfortunately, ShinyZeni, I don't think is going to make the pedestal. He's going to fall in the water. He just jumped a little too early. Elm, I think, is going to make it because he pressed down and compressed his hitbox. So both of them are going to have to go for the bomb jump unless they opt to use... Looks like ShinyZeni is trying to get that secondary CWJ, which is an option. Elm accidentally went back through the door as well. So both runners having a little bit of difficulty here. This room is incredibly difficult and is one of the primary reasons that people avoid running new route or categories like low ice.
This is one of the hardest parts
around
of new route for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough
it's so much
room.
easier if you just have the speed booster.
But they both made it just fine, and Elm is only, I would say, maybe about 5 seconds behind here or so. So no major difference. We'll now kind of go into what kind of patterns they get and how many rounds it takes. One kind of people might not be aware of in terms of, for most runners, a lot of people, if they only watch a little bit of Super Metroid, they'll watch people like Oats and Goats or Zoast or Behemoth, some of the absolutely most incredible best players and most consistent players in the world. Those guys get 2-round Fantoons pretty frequently, but getting a 2-round Fantoon using the Doppler method, as you have to do in this route, is actually very difficult. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw some 3-round Fantoons here, but that would still be a good result for these runners.
Yeah, the top tier runners make Fantoon look easy, but you have hardly any health. You can only get hit a few times before it's Monka S, and because a death it's over if you get a death. So not only is it hard enough to kill Fantoon that quickly, but to kill him at all without getting killed yourself is something that I like. If I ever run this game, I would be really scared of Fantoon every time. But ShinyZeni making it look easy.
Yeah, gorgeous. He got an excellent Doppler on the first round. I think he actually got in 11 shots, which most people are, purposefully sort of attempting to try to get 10 on the first round. He got 11, and that made his second Doppler even more sort of safer. So I think he got a slow fast, maybe. I didn't quite see what his first round was, but either way, he got a 2-round. Elm has just managed to get a slow, and it looks like he's going to have the 3-round here. Hopefully, he'll get a mid here and can get out of here pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's already kind of losing like 20 seconds due to RNG, probably with the slow, and then adding on the fact that he had to do another round there, but he didn't die, as we saw in races with Trevitox. It's all these runners, I give them credit for doing new route in races. It's just so hard.
Yeah, so both runners doing quite well on Fantoon here. Zeni getting that 2-round, very difficult to do, so that's going to save him a lot of time, and now he's entering the attic here. Another key room in this run. Looks like he's going to take it a little bit slower and collect some of the ammo and the health, which I think is a solid idea. He needs to be... Ooh, this is not good. He needs to be really careful about his health. He has to have a mandatory minimum of 121 health before he enters the bowling room in order to survive, because the spikes are going to do 60 damage per hit, and he is forced to at least take 2 hits. So we'll see kind of how he has to farm here. He can farm at this bug spot, and he can also farm in the next room because there are some waivers and some pancakes in there. In the meantime, we'll see if Elm can get out of the attic without getting hit. The attic can be one of those rooms that can definitely ruin your run. Looks like Zeni's okay now. He can't miss the first jump, however. He'll need to be really careful about making sure to get the first jump. Okay, he's in good shape.
Get a little extra there. Not that it matters, but up a lot of time from that. Despite having a slower Fantoon, because Shiny had to farm and Elm didn't. Elm's right back in this.
Yeah, Elm made up quite a lot of time there, but Zeni's still ahead by maybe about 12 seconds or so. So we got a really good race here, and both runners will now pick up their gravity suit, and we'll see what they opt to do next. If they both decide to do straight new route, we'll probably see them grab Spazer and then head down to Norfair. Sometimes people will go Kraid first before Ridley to grab an extra E-Tank for some safety purposes in a race. So both runners have options. We'll see what they elect to do here.
Yeah, in a race setting, I don't see, I would say Kraid first is a better decision, because doing Kraid's second doesn't save as much time as you would think, because, I mean, the real source of time save is because that you have the speed booster for, like, some of those longer rooms. But in a race setting, I wouldn't be surprised if both runners did Kraid first, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, there's different philosophies in these races. Sometimes people will adjust their play for the race. Sometimes people just feel kind of more comfortable not really like altering their play and not really thinking about it and just kind of relying on the muscle memory, which can also, be of benefit. So we'll just kind of see what each one wants to do, and we'll take it from there. But Zeni farming a little bit of health there. Elm is right behind him. One option that Zeni will have in this next room is we'll see if he opts to farm any of the cacks. He's actually full on supers, which is not overly common. So he doesn't really need to kill these guys for ammo, but he might kill one just for some health. Okay, so he farmed both of them for health. Let's see what Elm chooses to do. He's farming them both as well. He'll get 2 supers out of the deal, whereas Shiny got 40 health because he was full on supers, so they dropped big health. So now both runners will be making their way down to Red Tower, and assume grabbing the Spazer Beam if they're going to run new route or some variation of new route. Yeah,
Shiny coming up on the all-important Spazer. The the little brother to the plasma being more overpowered beam, but Spazer does a good job in new route.
Yeah, let me explain a little bit about Spazer here. Spazer is a beam that is not picked up in any percent old route simply because, or at least traditionally, because the only thing it really adds is damage to your beam combination, and it makes the hitbox of the beam a lot bigger, whereas Plasma actually has a lot of other properties, like it allows you to clip through enemies and you can double hit some creatures and stuff like that. However, in this particular run, ooh, looks like Elm's doing something interesting. Okay. Oh yeah, so we went ahead and broke the two. But in this particular run, by the time you're able to get to Plasma, most of the run is already over. You've already killed Ridley. So there's really no point in collecting Plasma. It actually is slower. So that's why you'll see new route runners pick up Spazer early in the run so they can get some extra damage for the end game.
Yeah, Plasma definitely a very powerful weapon, not only, in the traditional sense of a beam, but like you said, you can clip through enemies using the frame. I believe it's called iframes. The enemies like the flash, and you can kind of like use the Plasma to plow through them.
Yeah, it's really cool how you can use some cool tech, but unfortunately, that's kind of old route tech exclusive since you don't get it in a new route. But that's the kind of the cool thing in both routes. You kind of get to do different methods of getting through certain areas like Lower Norfair. So, but both of these runners seem to be going in the same direction, using the same set of items, picking up their high jump boots. And now Zenny here is heading over to Ice Beam, and Elminster will follow suit. They're going to grab Ice Beam and then go pick up Speed Booster and Wave Beam before heading down to Lower Norfair. So it looks like we got some traditional new route here.
Yeah, and I feel like they're both playing pretty well. This has probably been one of the tighter races up to this point that I've seen so far.
Yeah, very tight race. This is really exciting. There's still a lot of tough strats to go. One thing that some new route runners talk with each other about pretty extensively is this section that they're in right now, Upper Norfair, the sort of item collection portion of the run, is not dangerous in terms of death. You're not going to take any damage or really die here, but this is actually one of the most technically precise parts of the run. It's really easy to lose a lot of time here, but once they get to Lower Norfair, if they make any mistakes, not only do they lose time, but they actually put themselves in jeopardy of dying. So that's the section that will be really exciting, and we'll see how both runners manage that when they get there.
Yeah, both runners are always in Lower Norfair, especially in the worst room of the game in that area. Saw Zost almost die in the last race, and we did see, and even later on in the Dragon fight, we saw Feral take a death chain damage. So this route is just so scary. The category, it's hard enough to get a good time, but let alone get through the run at all.
Yeah, you're right. And here's another example. This room that they're in right now, Bubble Mountain, that Zenny just left and Elma's in right now, is another good example of using different strats. Zenny did this really cool strat where he, it's called Right Side Bubble Mountain, where he had to basically pull off a really precise delayed wall jump to be able to get up there without getting any jump momentum from the left side. Unfortunately, he just barely kind of got, I think the cack attack messed him up at the top. So he fell a little bit, but was able to use a backup strat where he froze the waiver and then he got up there pretty quickly. Elm used the more traditional approach where he killed the first waiver in the room and then jumped from left to right. So it's pretty cool how many different options there are to run some of these rooms.
Yeah, and a lot of runners you can identify, like the more you start watching the runs, you can identify people by their strats. Like you can say, I don't even need to have a name under that stream because I know Behemoth does. Like I know that Zost wouldn't do a Behemoth climb. That's a Behemoth strat. So runners can be often identified by their series of strats because there's so many different unique techs in this game.
Yeah, that's a great point. I kind of think about it in terms of guitar players. Like a lot of times, like, I'm a musician and I love to listen to a lot of guitar players. And a lot of times I can recognize who the guitar player is, even if I don't know what the song is or the band, just because you get used to the way they play and the sound they have. Very similar in Super Metroid. You will see a very distinct style of play. Like if you watch one runner long enough, you will notice multiple small nuances to how they approach certain rooms that, might be unique to them. So it's kind of neat to watch, you know, people's macro strats develop over time.
Yeah. And both runners are going to be heading towards Lower Norfair. Try to pull off the lava spark there, which is one of the hardest tricks in the game for sure, and very dangerous. Fail it. A short charge here. And Shiny did not get it. He's probably going to elect to do the backup, the gravity jump.
Yeah, it looks like Elm didn't even decide to go for the lava spark. The lava spark is a really tough maneuver in this run. Definitely the fastest strat, but it's actually not as mandatory as a lot of people think. I talk about this all the time when I'm on commentary. I actually don't opt to go for it simply because if you miss it, you end up losing a ton of time. And sometimes you can even kill your run that way. But it does save about, I think it was 4 to 5 seconds. But it's a really tough trick. So sometimes runners will just opt to go for the gravity jump right off the bat, which is what Elm did here.
I feel like that's a good decision for a race. You know, like you said, the lava spark isn't a set. You don't need to learn lava spark to do new route.
Yeah,
do the
for
gravity
sure.
jump, and little ledge charge there.
Oh, this is not looking good. This is one of those rooms. Okay, good. He's got to back up. Worst room in the game is probably one of, I mean this not as a joke, it's probably the worst room in this run to mess up because it can literally kill your run. Elm had some trouble with it too, so let's hope that he gets through it here and doesn't die. Oh boy. Yeah, he's gonna have to take this really slow now.
Afford to take a little time to freeze these guys, but you just can't afford to die.
He now
No
is
save.
down to 20. Yep, that's the death right there. Everything in Lower Norfair hits for an immense amount of damage. For example, the pirates do about 50 each, I believe. The key hunters do 50 each. The Tuskegee do 40 each. So worst room in the game is one of those rooms that you can literally lose your entire run in. It's happened many times to many runners. Unfortunately, Elm wasn't able to get the backup strat that he wanted. Zeni also taking a lot of damage. If he gets hit by anything in this room, he will die. But fortunately for him, he's going to be moving down to kill the metal pirates, which means that he'll refill on a lot of his health. So I think ShinyZeni just did a save before Ridley. Elm has not done any save, so he has to start all the way back at the beginning of the game.
Fortunate, but so common. I mean, I'm pretty sure every race I've commented in this has had a death for one of the runners.
Super Metroid is a tough game, and I know some people kind of get tired of us Super Metroid people talking about how tough it is, but it really, like, if you go and run it, I assure you will find about a million ways to die and lose runs, especially in New Route, especially in Lower Norfair. I mean, every single room can penalize you immensely for a mistake. So, and unfortunately we've seen that happen multiple times already.
Shiny is not in the clear yet. Even though he did save, he still has many ways to die later on. I mean, like we said, chain damage. I assume if he is watching stream, which I think he is, he will be playing it safe from here on out, kind of like you did as well, Kip.
Yeah, I played it a lot safer once my opponent died. Fortunately, I mean, not that I ever would want an opponent to die, but in terms of like playing it safe, I was able to see that before I went to Lower Norfair, so I actually came down here with extra health and some extra defensive properties on my gravity jump. But fortunately for Zeni here, even imagine like if he just has a really bad Ridley fight or Ridley trolls him, which he seems to be in control here without issue. He's a great Ridley fighter from his RBO experience. But even if he died here somehow, he would only get set back to maybe about 3 minutes ago or so, whereas Elm is about 24 minutes behind. So it would take a lot for Elm to get back in this game, assuming that Shiny continues to take saves.
Definitely playing it out. That is the smart decision. You know, never.
Oh.
And there's a death. There's a start. Shiny with the death. He's gonna lose a couple minutes there. Elm still far behind, but short category. You know, couple more of those. 1 or 2 even.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, Elm certainly just needs to stick with it and, you know, do his best to keep going until somebody is able to completely finish the run. But, you know, in terms of ShinyZeni, you know, I think he made a really smart tactical decision. When he saw Elm die, he immediately went and saved. And that allowed him to...
That just saved him the run. He'd be like another minute behind.
Yeah, if he hadn't saved right there, he'd actually be significantly behind Elm at this point, given the fact that Elm's now been running for about 4 minutes. But yeah, hopefully, you know, Zenny will be able to refill his health and get some supers, and then have a better Ridley fight this time. Ridley can be incredibly troll. He, in my opinion, has the most complex AI of anything in this game, pretty much. And even though you can manipulate him, there are times where he just basically does whatever he wants. So he's definitely a place where a lot of people die.
Yeah, it really never ends with Super Metroid any %. It's just one room after another, one boss fight after another. It's just one of those runs that if you haven't tried it yourself, like, you know, like me, then you're just in awe. Like, how do these people do this, you know?
Yeah, I saw some comments in chat about only the Ridley save making sense. Actually, in most races of this caliber, if somebody's going to make a save, they will save at the beginning of Lower Norfair. The Ridley save is actually quite a substandard save to make, simply because of the worst room in the game and some of the rooms like Amphitheater leading up to the Ridley save. There are probably more runs lost to those rooms in New Route than to maybe even to Ridley. I think I've probably died in worst room in the game more often than Ridley. So unfortunately, I mean, you know, saves aren't mandatory. Everybody's trying to run as fast as they can. But I think Zenny made the correct choice in terms of a tactical decision once he realized that his opponent had died.
I agree with that. You know, sometimes you just forfeit the PB and just try to get the W. There's PB strategies and Shiny the race strategies right now, and it's paying off.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think either runner should have, you know, specifically saved prior to Zenny's. I think Zenny's save was a really smart call based on the situation. Holy cow, dude, Ridley is not in a good mood today. My goodness.
And another death. It's getting closer. It's, you know, a Monka-esque situation for Shiny. That's another death. And Alma's been running for like 7 minutes. He's probably made up, I mean, half of the time he lost almost.
Oh, apparently Zenny said that he saved before he saw Elm die. I'm actually even further surprised by that, but I guess he did that based on his health. Having 35 health entering this room is not typical, and like basically anything that touches you from here to the Metal Pirates will kill you. So maybe that was just sort of a safety measure, which clearly turned out to be a really great decision to make. You know, you'd be surprised. People talk about it a lot. Sometimes the save that you make in this game ends up being the biggest factor in potentially winning a race. So we'll have Ridley fight number 3 coming up here, and Fantoon number 2 for Elm pretty
he
soon.
Didn't know at the time, but that's awesome for him.
One thing that we've seen 3 times now that I failed to mention is the first Metal Pirate that Zenny has killed every time.
It's not over.
No, it's not over for sure. But the first Metal Pirate that Zenny killed, all 3 times only dropped health. And that's because Zenny entered that room in health bomb range. In this game, if you go below 30 health, so at any point if you get to 29 or lower, every creature is basically forced to drop only health until you get over 50 health. And so every time he's killed the first metal pirate, he's been below that threshold, and so the metal pirate was forced to only drop health, whereas after he collected it, the second metal pirate that he killed dropped some supers to go along with it. So a small nuance of this game, but something that can actually ruin a run sometimes if you need some ammo, but you accidentally take too much damage. Elm now back in the moat room. Let's see if he can get his... All right, he got the horizontal bomb jump first try. Excellent.
Honestly, the first time I tried to like learn that as a casual player, like when I was not a kid, but like a couple years ago, it took me 2 hours to get it once. I'm not lying. It's not easy.
No, the horizontal bomb jump is part of the reason it's so difficult is it's very precise, but it's also not overly intuitive. Like the way that it feels doesn't feel the way you would imagine the trick looks, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So you end up having to put yourself in kind of a position that you wouldn't think would be natural. But once you get used to it, it's a great method of getting across the moat. I think Ridley's dead here. Okay, there we go. So Zenny was grabbed there. He's going to be able to avoid the health bomb since he's above 29 health. So Ridley will drop some ammo and health, and Zenny's going to grab the Ridley tank, which will make the Lower North Fair exit a lot easier than it would be if he were on a PB run and trying to skip it. So good call there. Elm now on his Fantoon fight. It's a decent first round, although I don't know if he got enough missiles to get a 2-round. Looks like he's just committing to the 3-round here, using some air Dopplers to keep Fantoon on screen. And he'll try to close this out with a little bit of a Doppler and then a super missile for 600 damage to kill the Space Ghost. Excellent job.
That's just a very cool strategy to kill the boss.
Yeah, that was really neat. All right, Zenny now gonna try to utilize some iframes to do a speedball. Unfortunately, just didn't quite make it to the spot in time. That's a really tough strat. If you can get a speedball there, you actually get blue suit properties and a mock ball at the same time. And you can roll through that long tunnel and actually break the blocks without having to wait on the bombs. But not a big deal at all. He's still in perfectly fine shape in terms of just this one singular race. He's still probably, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes ahead or so. So now he's just waiting on the key hunter to get out of his way, doing a little dodging. And he's going to make his way up to the final room here in about 2 or 3 rooms from now of Lower North Fair Escape, called the Three Musketeers. That room is a room that ends a lot of runs because the key hunters do 50 damage each. Unfortunately, Elm going through the same thing ShinyZeni did earlier in Attic, taking a little bit of damage from the key hunter there. He does have enough health to make it across bowling, but he'll probably want to be careful while he's in there. So here's Zenny going through the Three Musketeers room. Let's see if he can get out of here without taking any damage. Very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, made his way through there very quickly, and now he will leave Norfair for good for this run and head up to Kraid to collect his Various suit.
Yeah, so Shiny sticking with it. You know, both some deaths here and there, but we still got a race here. It's not over yet. You know, there's different ways to die. There's like you said, there's a million ways to die in Super Metroid any %. And we've seen a couple already.
Yeah, we saw one, I think, just a couple days ago. Farrell was racing Scotty McBody, and I think, if I remember correctly, died to chain damage to Dragon. Is that right? Something to that effect. Either way, there is a way to die pretty much everywhere.
It was a frame perfect chain damage. I was it was me and Freya's on the commentary. We did not see it coming because he had so much health, but he lost it in the blink of an eye because that chain damage, no iframes.
Yeah, it's incredibly unfortunate. But yeah, that's just the way it is, man. There's all kind of funky ways to die in this game. So Elm will continue with his run. I don't anticipate him giving up until the game is officially over. So you never know what'll happen. Zeni's going to now make his way through the mini Kraid room to fight Kraid. And I think pretty much everybody who watches any form of Super Metroid speedruns is probably familiar with the Kraid quick kill. Adam, you want to tell them a little bit about what to expect here?
So Kraid normally has 2 phases. The first phase where he's kind of half hidden, and then once you do a certain amount of damage, he'll stand up and do a second phase. But if you kill him in the right way, where you can basically overload his damage, and you can basically do enough damage before he can even get a chance to stand up. And that's exactly what ShinyZeni just did. Kraid did not have any chance. Phase. So that's why it's called the stand-up glitch in the community, because it's, in the speedrunning, it's like a glitch if he actually enters the second phase. But it's really just when you fail the quick kill.
Yeah, that was a beautiful quick kill by Zeni. And as you mentioned, that second phase, there's a decent portion of that phase in which Kraid is invulnerable. Once he starts standing up, it actually can take a little while for him to open his mouth again to damage him. So that's why it can add a lot of time to the run. So he got through that very easily. Elm is now picking up his phaser beam, and I assume will now head back to Norfair to start his item collection. Zeni's going to be ready here to head to Meridia for the final boss. I guess the final G4 boss anyway of the run before heading to Mother Brain. Dragon, and he also will have to fight a mini boss called Batwoon, who can really be a big troll. Batwoon has probably one of the worst hitboxes in this game, and he's known to eat super missiles and not take any damage. So hopefully Zeni can have a clean Batwoon here.
Yeah, we'll probably see an X Factor. Hopefully ShinyZeni will land all 4 shots of the X Factor, and he'll pump 5 supers into Batwoon before he has a chance to basically hide away again, and we'll get a nice little 1-round Batwoon.
Yeah, for sure. X Factors are cool tech. In the 80% old route, it's not mandatory, but a lot of people like to utilize X Factor strats on Phantoon, then use them again on Batwoon, and then again on Dragon. But in new route, you don't have the wave beam by the time you get to Phantoon, so those X Factor strats are, literally impossible because you don't have the equipment. So here, this is kind of the first place that you get to use them in a more traditional sense. Although some people do use them against Ridley in new route. Not everybody, but some people. Let's see how Zeni's fight goes here. Beautiful.
And hit, but he killed him. It's a very nice 1 round from Zeni. Batwoon really didn't have a chance. We hardly knew him.
Yeah, that X Factor with the wave beam, you have to use a power bomb to get the X Factor. That's a special beam attack, and it gives out 4 particles. Each one of those particles does 300 damage. So all 4 of those particles hit Batwoon in the head, and then he fired 6 super missiles, which also do 300 damage each. Batwoon has 3,000 health, and so he was able to kill him in 1 round. Zeni almost getting the full half. He was basically like maybe a pixel or 2 too short, and unfortunately only made it about a quarter of the way through the room. But he'll clean up the room pretty easily here and won't lose but just a few seconds. While Elm has now picked up his ice beam and will continue on back to Bubble Mountain.
Yeah, we're gonna see Zeni take out these turrets here. Just makes the fight a lot easier, not having to worry about getting shot by turrets. We're gonna see some sparks to do damage to Dragon, and then we're gonna probably some traditional strats. I don't know. Zeni hasn't saved, so I don't know if he'll go for blue suit or not, because it's a little risky because of chain damage.
Yeah, although chain damage doesn't happen too frequently, and he has an extra an extra E-tank that he's coming here with. You know, most of the time, you know, I know Zeni's PB, for example, only has 3. Here we have an interesting graphical glitch because of getting grabbed by Dragon, but I think he'll go for it here. And there you go. He got it, no sweat. He got the spike suit as well, and he'll collect a few drops.
Very
and then,
nice. Isn't spike suit frame perfect?
Yeah, I think it's double frame perfect if I recall correctly. I think you gotta basically unmorph and then press a jump input on the 1st and the 9th frame after the unmorph. It's kind of bizarre, but yeah, he got it. So now he's holding a suit here, excuse me, a spark, and he's going to activate it there and fly across. So excellent job there. Another nice moonfall there. That's another good room for it. Any room that has you know, kind of a longer vertical shaft in it, such as the climb or right before you do the full halfie, sometimes in Red Tower, those are excellent rooms to utilize some of those moonfall strats.
Room where you can fall as fast as you want and basically just fall through the room, you know, faster. Because normally Samus falls really slowly, but being able to uncap that speed is very beneficial for a speed run.
So yeah, what you're seeing right now, for those of you that might not be as familiar, part of the reason that New Route is so effective is because of the pathing. Basically, by killing Dragon last instead of 3rd, not only do you get to bypass the space jump, you also get to bypass Plasma, and plus you're already in Meridia, which is pretty close to the surface area of the game. So you'll notice that Zeni only had to go through a few rooms to exit Meridia, and then he was immediately back on the surface. So now he can head straight over to Torian. Whereas in Old Route, even though you have the extra beams and can do more damage, you know, quickly to Ridley and Mother Brain, you do end up having to path pretty far. Like, for example, when you kill Ridley last, you then have to exit Lower Norfair and go all the way back up to the top of the game. So Zeni's pathing here is saving him quite some time over a potential Old Route run.
Yeah, doing Ridley last, you basically are about as far away from G4 as you can possibly, whereas Dragon's a lot closer.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there, Adam. I've never actually tested it, but I think it might literally be the furthest room, you know, other than obviously Ridley's E-Tank room, but I think that's like the furthest away you can possibly be from Torian. So maybe somebody in the chat will have a official answer on that one.
Well, I just can't think of any place that's further away, because you have to go all the way through Lower, and then you got to go all the way through regular Norfair, and then you have to go all the way through Brinstar, or red part of Brinstar, and then you have to go through half a Criteria. I mean, it's pretty much at least a 5. I don't know how long it is. It's probably like 2 or 3 minutes longer than 2 minutes longer.
Yeah, and all those door transitions and stuff too. So. Here's Elm in the worst room in the game. Hopefully he will... Okay, excellent. Nailed it first try this time. And he is up with the ball over the head strat. Yeah, great job. One thing to note real quick, every time he shoots, notice that he has notice that he has Spazer and Ice still equipped. This means that most likely he will not be unequipping those and doing any X Factor strats on Ridley. Whereas we did see ShinyZeni do some earlier. That's another interesting part about New Route. Some people choose to use different Ridley strats.
Now, isn't it faster to unequip and equip beams once you're during the elevator transition?
Well, there's, you know, that's a good question, Adam. There's actually a lot of debate about that, and in particular, it kind of just depends because, in theory, if you were able to get a successful 4 X Factor on Ridley and like a perfect fight afterwards, it is definitely faster than not using X Factors. However, you do have to factor in the time that it takes to, number one, unequip them, so the pause to unequip them, then the pause to re-equip them after you've done the X Factors to put Ice and Spazer back on, and then on top of that, on your average run, you don't always get a chance to do 4 X Factors. So I just gave you a really long answer to say that basically it depends.
Yeah. But like my other question is, if you are on the elevator versus like just like standing on like a regular surface and equipping beams or de-equipping beams versus being on the elevator, because I think if you like pause and unpause, you actually move a little bit down the elevator during that pause.
Yeah,
or
you are
something.
you are correct about that. I'll explain that here in just one second. Let's take a look at ShinyZeni's Baby Metroid skip real quick. Doing a few extra jumps to make sure that he gets the setup that he wants, and that was very nice. That skip is worth a lot of time. Depending on how many jumps you use, that skip can save anywhere between 23, 24, even upwards to 30 seconds. So an excellent strat to get there. He's in good shape. His ammo looks good. His health looks good. His ammo looks good.
It's a huge time save.
Yeah, and he's going to save right before Mother Brain. So at this point, unless his power goes out or something like that, he would have to. Which I say that even though it's kind of funny to think about, that's actually happened in an official race before. We've had runners lose that way before, but unless something really crazy IRL happens, he's in just a commanding lead. It's incredibly unlikely for him to die to Mother Brain 1 or 2, like 10 times in a row or whatever. So he's in pretty good shape here. But Elm is finishing up his Ridley fight.
Once or twice though, but it's at this point that save was huge.
Yeah, I mean, even if he died at Mother Brain, he would only be losing like 2 minutes, maybe. You know what I mean? And so Elm is still, easily, 12 to 15 minutes away from Torian anyway. So Zeni's definitely in a huge lead here. But he's going to start his Mother Brain 2 fight. He's got to hit her 60 times with this beam combination to end the fight. So real quick to answer your question, Adam, you're correct. Equipping or de-equipping something on an elevator is actually a lot better than doing it just, like in a random place. Because when you pause the game, it takes a second for it to fade out and the game actually continues to run. So if you were to pause and then in the split second that you have, like get on the elevator, it would start to go down. You could then, unequip or equip whatever you needed. And then when it faded back in, you'd also have some time while it faded while you'd still be on the elevator. So it definitely saves some frames.
Yeah, that's a really neat feature. It's kind of like how that glitch that clear health by pausing and unpausing. It's the same thing. It takes forever for when you hit pause for the game to actually reach the pause screen and stop running.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, you have to utilize that pause in randomizers in certain categories like low percent ice because you need to get gravity jumps. So, that wouldn't work unless you could initiate a jump before you take off the suit. So, anyway, Zeni's through his fight here. Good job, and he will now, await the cutscene. He didn't drop below 100 health, so Mother Brain's going to unload on him here for a second before she gives him the rainbow beam. And there we go. Now we will move on to the cutscene before he does his escape. So it looks like Zeni's going to lock up a win here. Elm is now going through the Three Musketeers room with 136 health. This is a really tough room. Let's see how he manages it. Ooh, okay. He took 2 hits. If he had taken another hit, he would have died, but luckily he was able to use his iframes and get out of there before danger fully set in there.
Saving ShinyZeni from certain death. Coming.
Yes, the baby Metroid is the
ShinyZeni
true
to die
hero.
there.
And one of the saddest moments in Super Nintendo history upcoming.
Yeah. You hate to see it. You hate to see it.
So now Zenny is equipped with the Hyper Beam, aka the Rainbow Beam here, and he will unload, I want to say 36. I actually don't remember exactly how many shots it is. I've never counted it. I just basically learned the rhythm and just try to do it until she's dead. But I think it's 36, somewhere between that, maybe 40 shots. He's moved himself closer to the middle of the room because that beam can actually lag the game up pretty bad. So he's moving closer to her so that he can basically shoot a shot, into her face and basically reduce the amount of time that beam is on the screen. That reduces a lot of lag and saves some frames.
Yeah, lag reduction often isn't talked about as much as it should be in Super Metroid, but there's some different things you can do to reduce lag for sure, and there's definitely a lot of lag that you can see like on the screen.
Oh, unfortunately, Elm over here just barely missed the quick kill. Kraid is now standing up, and luckily for Elm, he actually opened his mouth fairly quickly, which meant he could clean this up pretty quickly. But yeah, we got prom night here. Kraid got into prom tonight. He's always trying to get in. Unfortunately for us, he was able to crash the party tonight.
Prom King Kraid.
Oh, Zenny going for the swag left side spark and just barely missed. Adam, I gotta ask you a tough question, man. First of all, I've enjoyed doing commentary.
Usually
with
you see Behemoth Spark or you see right side.
Oh yeah, but so Adam, like I was saying, I've enjoyed doing commentary with you, but I think I heard you say earlier that you prefer people to save the animals. Is that true?
Yeah, I feel like if you have this much of a lead, then it's kind of your duty to save the animals to preserve the timeline. In Metroid Fusion, you cannot beat the game. You basically will get blown up without the animals driving the ship. So I feel like it's you're kind of dissing on Fusion runners if you don't save the animals. I understand if it's like you're on PvP pace or if it's a close race, but if you're ahead by 10 minutes, come on, man, come on, bruh.
You make me sad, Adam. But anyway, GG to ShinyZeni for winning this match. Great run by him. I'm just playing with you, obviously. So yeah, this was a great race. ShinyZeni, in particular, as I mentioned before, I don't actually think he's been doing a ton of any percent lately, because he's been working on his world record RBO stuff, which is an incredibly difficult run. So, given the fact that he had the deaths, if you took those away, though, there was a lot of great things that happened in this run, and this would be a really fast time for the vast majority of people. So GG to him. And Elm also played well. Unfortunately, took that death in the worst room in the game. So that's Super Metroid for you.
Yeah, both runners showing off a lot of really good, skill. It's just unfortunate that they happened to die, but I know I wouldn't let that overshadow the way they played. They both played really well today.
Absolutely. And the good news, too, as we mentioned before, is this is a double elimination tournament, which means that neither one of these runners, or I guess in this case, Elm, even though he lost this match, he's not eliminated from the tournament. He will get to have at least one more race and potentially more. So he's not done by any stretch of the imagination. And we all know he's very talented. So I'm sure he could put up a great fight against anybody that he races against.
Absolutely. Experience is one of the most important things to have in any game, let alone Super Metroid. It's a little halfy there from Elm through the door. All right, I have been told that we have ShinyZeni in the call with us. How you feeling, Shiny? GG on the win.
Hey, thanks. Pretty rough run, especially that Ridley segment. Yeah, so I think I bonked the pirate right before the Key Hunter's room on the way down. So I ended up having only like 35 health, and I knew that if I bonked a Deskiga, I was gonna die. So that's why I decided to save there. And then unfortunately Elm, took his death. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, the run went about as well as I could expect it to, since I haven't been running it at all for the past few months. I've been grinding RBO pretty hard.
Oh wow, that's insane given the difficulty.
Zenny,
yeah,
yeah, GG, dude. I think that was a really good call, and it makes sense why you did that because even though you didn't know, as you mentioned, you didn't know that Elm had died, but you knew that if you just got bad RNG in the room or if they did something weird, that you could lose the whole run. So I think that was a really smart call in a race scenario, and it's kind of saved the day.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Ridley. You're like, one of the best. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, like I've seen you practice him a ton. I know you do it, fight him a lot in RBO, and you know a lot about him. To me, he's one of the most difficult parts of this run and just sort of in general in the game. So tell me a little bit about the Ridley fights tonight. Like he kind of trolled you a little bit on some of those patterns.
So the thing about Ridley is he changes a lot from category to category. So like in RBO, I start out the fight with 2 X factors and then I load him up with 20 supers immediately. And at that point, you only need to get him in, I think 12 charge shots in to finish him. But in any percent, the optimal strat that I go for is the 4X factor strat, which requires a different opening than you would go for in RBO. And if RNG decides that you don't get to go for the 4X factor, then you have to, you have to adjust your strategy to that different type of fight. And I think that's like 30 plus charge shots that you end up having to load them up with.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, and so what can happen is, as he's swooping back and forth, or if he decides to pogo or whatever, like he can just decide to do this very slightly weird thing, and it can throw the entire groove of the fight off. I think it was my second fight against him. I lost count, but I was pretty sure that he was dead because I knew I was at 30 plus. So I got grabbed and he didn't die, and then I got grabbed again and he still didn't die, and then I ended up dying. That was just one of those things. It was my fault because I wasn't paying enough attention to how much damage I had dealt to him, But,
well, and to that point, you mentioned having to fight him a few times, but what saved the day? I hate to say it, but ShinyZeni remembered to save the game, or what's the copy pasta exactly? I'm sure you have it memorized.
Copy pasta, yeah.
So once again, the copy pasta rules the world here, but yeah, you'll be moving on to face Sloters 27, which as we all know in the Super Metroid community, Sloters is a fantastic runner. I'm looking forward to that matchup. While we have you here, we're all pumped about you going to GDQ and running RBO, which is not only just a really cool run, but also like really exciting and dangerous, especially for a marathon setting. So tell us a little bit about, what you're looking forward to. This is your first GDQ event in terms of running a game. So we're all excited to see you. Tell us a little bit about your prep and kind of what you're going to be doing with that.
Right. So I actually haven't been to a GDQ before. It's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And so, I just decided like, well, if I'm going to go, then I should probably get serious about this. And, so I started running RBO not with the intention to do it at GDQ necessarily, but I knew that it was something that interested me, and it was probably a category that I could get some pretty good times in. I did not expect to get a world record in it, but that ended up happening, and I've just continued to optimize the route and find different ways to bring the time down since then, So I submitted to GDQ and they accepted, and then they decided to put me right at the end of the schedule, which is super nerve-wracking. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to pull any punches in the run. I just have some backup saves that I'll utilize if and when I die, and we'll go from there. But I'm feeling pretty confident about it. I've been having some really good runs lately. I got a new world record on Sunday by about 5 seconds, and then last night I was on a major world record pace, but the run ended up finishing about 2 seconds behind. So
yeah, I actually watched that run. I was in bed and I was kind of lurking, so I never said anything. But yeah, that was one thing I get it. When you're on a sick pace and then you just barely lose it and it's a little slower than your PB or whatever, that it can be frustrating. But I hope you at least take some consolation in the fact that that is an incredibly sick time for the category, and as you mentioned, it would be the world record had you ran it last week. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
I hope you don't beat yourself up too bad, because I'm sure you'll have plenty of other opportunities to lower the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was definitely still a good time. It is a bummer when you're that far ahead and things happen and you end up, falling behind. But ultimately, it was a sub-hour time, and that's incredible. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, GG, man. Adam, if you have any more questions, I'll let you ask. Otherwise, we'll get back to the Elminster end of the run here. Congratulations on the win, and good luck in round 2.
Okay, thank you.
Since you've never been to a GDQ before, is there anyone you're like looking forward to meeting, or is it just the experience you're looking forward to?
So there are a lot of people that I wanted to meet. I really super wanted to meet Zos, but he's not going. So I'm looking forward to meeting. Oates is going to be there. I think Walrus Prime, who runs Mega Man X, is going to be there. Sephi. There are a few others that I'm really looking forward to meet while I'm out there. But really, like if you are going, and you wanna meet up, I'll be there on that Friday and Saturday. I won't be able to make the trip for the whole week. We're actually having a baby in a few weeks, so I got to make sure that I'm here for that. But yeah, thank you.
Perfect timing as the baby Metroid makes its way onto Elm screen. So, congratulations, absolutely, to you and your wife. And I think you have one or two kids already. Is that right?
Yeah, we have 2 kids already, so this will be the 3rd.
Awesome. That's really exciting, man. Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Speaking of awesome things, I sponsor Vi.gg. You can bet on these races. We got a bunch tomorrow if you want to start betting. If you are of legal age and residence, ! Bet in the chat. It'll give you the link to Vi.gg. Shout outs to them.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Adam. Definitely cool to have a sponsor for this tournament. And as we mentioned before, the first money Super Metroid tournament ever. So it's really cool to have sponsorship, and we want to thank them immensely from everybody in the Super Metroid community.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a new world of esports, and I'm glad we have people that are backing it like Vi. So it's really nice.
It really is cool to see Super Metroid getting this kind of exposure. Somebody mentioned, I forget who it was, but somebody mentioned that they'd never seen any sort of monetary tournament for Super Metroid before, and I can attest to that. I've been watching it on Twitch for 4 or 5 years now, and I'd never seen anything like this. So it's really cool that we get anything at all out of this type of exposure, the esports world. So
yeah, I agree, and
it's a nice.
Yeah, for sure. And I really like to encourage anybody out there that finds it interesting to watch. You guys should try to play the game. It's a tough game, but at the same time, it's incredibly rewarding, super fun. It's incredibly deep. There's just a ton of ways to be able to enjoy the game. So we got a great community. A lot of people are very helpful. They want to help people grow. So feel free to jump on in and start learning some strats.
Absolutely, yeah. I might even consider taking a stab at this game as soon as I can. I'm in college, so I can only speedrun on the weekends.
Understandable. You do Super Mario 64, is that right?
Yeah, mostly 16-star and a meme category called All Signs, but I'm getting to 70 more and 31-star, which is another extension category. It's pretty lit. It's like a bunch of new. It's like a halfway between 16 and 70, but it's a fun game. But
that's cool, man. And big shout outs to Speedrun, our channel here. They've been putting on not only some excellent Super Metroid content, but I thoroughly enjoyed the Super Mario 64 race that I was watching that was on before this race. That's a really cool, fun speedrun to watch, so I enjoyed that immensely. Ooh, Elm is at 309 health. He has to maintain 301 health at minimum to survive the final rainbow beam attack. So he needs to make sure that he does not get hit here before she gets to her rainbow beam. Let's see if he can get there.
There's some troll patterns he's getting.
There we go. Very nice.
Here we go. And also shout outs to the Odyssey runners as well. Super Mario Odyssey any percent. That is extremely entertaining. I mean, in just like a 1 year span, I mean, that the community has just taken Odyssey to like a whole new level. It's
All right, well, I'm gonna drop off here, but thanks again for the race and the commentary, and I will see you guys
anytime.
I'm up against Sloters next, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll have to get that scheduled.
That is
then.
correct.
All right.
All right,
you.
thank
Take
you,
care.
Zenny. Have a great night.
Yeah, thanks, Zenny. Take it easy, man.
So yeah, there's Odyssey, there's 70 Star, and Super Metroid any percent. 3 tournaments being sponsored by Vi.gg. We are very grateful here at GSA, and it's a really nice partnership we got going on here, as Elm is getting rescued by the baby Metroid.
Yeah, unfortunately, we will have to watch our sweet baby Metroid die one more time before the end of this race. But Elm's gonna lock it up here shortly. All he has to do is escape the exploding planet, and he'll be in good shape.
Yeah, he'll get his revenge on Mother Brain with the Hyper Beam. Just absolutely demolish Mother Brain 2 here. Technically Mother Brain 3. I consider it a separate phase. Most people do. If you notice on ShinyZeni's stream, he actually got that energy tank. He did that trick you were talking about earlier. He just never exited out of the fanfare. Oh, there he goes.
Very nicely done.
I'm gonna predict a 110-20.
Yeah, I was gonna say roughly about that too. So, assuming he doesn't save the animals, we'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, so Elm making his way up here. He's utilizing one thing we didn't really ever talk about that I think most people are familiar with, just in case you're not. You'll notice that a lot of times he'll be spamming the R and L buttons and having his cannon face diagonal up or down. That's called arm pumping. Every time you arm pump like that, Samus moves forward, I believe, 1 pixel. So over the course of a full run, especially with some of these longer rooms, you can actually save a few seconds over the course of a run, and definitely some frames in individual rooms by arm pumping. So Elm is making his way above. He is not going to save the animals. Let's see how close our prediction is. Looks like he might make it in just slightly under, maybe like a 110-18. Very nice.
Very nice.
GG to Elminster. Apart from the unfortunate death in the worst room in the game, otherwise a very nice run in a very tough category and a very tough route. So GG to him. And again, he is definitely not done in this tournament by any stretch of the imagination. He will move to the losers bracket, but he's not eliminated. He'll have another race. I believe against, I want to say, you know what? I'm not actually 100% sure. I'll double check on the roster real quick, and we'll see who he's going to face next week.
Yeah, it's someone in the losers bracket. I know it might be it might be Farrell. I don't know. I'm not sure. It could be Farrell. I'm not sure though. But yeah, we'll be getting
It's typo.
Oh, okay.
Which is what I thought it was, but I wanted to double check. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. So he will face Typo next week, which will be a great race. And let's see if Elm is in here. Elm, can you hear it?
Hey guys.
Hey man, GG and welcome in.
Oh, okay.
So tell us a little bit. We were kind of talking about how bad the worst room in the game can be, especially in this category. You kind of got some unfavorable sort of reactions, I would say, from the Metal Pirates there. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Um, so like, I didn't save before then because I'm against a higher seeded player. I expect him to be have better execution, maybe overtake me, even if I had a lead. Um, and I think I got overconfident because in the any percent tournament on speed gaming, I didn't die at all. Even doing a new route for several of those races. So I trusted myself. I trusted myself that even if the room went wrong, I would be able to do a backup, like reset the room, whatever. And like sometimes, if you don't get the wall jump properly the first time, you can still make it back up if both pirates end up on the same side of the wall. But they ended up on different sides of the wall both times, and then so I just decided to kill them, and then ended up with 3 energy, and just things got a bit out of control.
Yeah, it's a tough room, and I certainly don't blame you at all for not saving. I mean, I think you're 100% right in terms of the sort of game theory there. Like assuming that hey, maybe on average, I'm up against a higher seeded player, so I'm just going to take as much risk as I can and get through. But this, I think, is an example of just how tough this game can be. I mean, there's just so many areas where the smallest, tiniest of mistakes can be the end of a run. But otherwise, you played really well in a lot of places. I really got to know, dude. Like, I really want to know what was going through your brain when you shine sparked Dragon, and then you noticed that you ran out of health, and she's just hovering in midair, waiting for a potential swoop. What were you thinking when that happened?
Oh, I mean, Zeni was done already, so I wasn't really taking it too seriously at that point. And I figured that if I died, then I could just stop playing earlier.
That's a good point. It was cool that you killed Dragon on a pseudo screw. We actually were interviewing Zeni at the time, so we didn't really talk about it. Explain to the audience that might not be aware of all the tech in the game how you killed her, because a lot of people never see her killed that way unless they see like a low percent run or something.
Okay, so Dragon is the only boss, I think, that is vulnerable to the pseudo screw attack, which is when you do a spin jump while holding a charged beam. And that does 200 damage. It does 200 to Dragon. And it's usually used in low percent because you don't have a lot of other weaponry. You don't have speed booster to shine spark. But yeah, so she just happened to be down to that last bit of health. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what all you have going on, because you're obviously a great Super Metroid player, but you're skilled across many categories, across many ROM hacks, across many other games. I know you're, I think, in the randomizer league for Super Metroid. Are you doing anything currently with Link to the Past? Like, what all are you involved?
Oh yeah, I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I just want to address the point Chavo was making about the off-screen kill. You don't have to worry if you kill Dragon off screen to the right. It's to the left that you have to worry, because if she's off screen to the left, then her exposition's a negative, her exposition overflows. So that's when it goes from 65,000 all the way to 0. But if she's on the right, then her exposition is a very small number.
Also, only a moron would kill her with the pseudo screw on the left side, right?
I think
I'm making fun of myself here. For those that don't know, I've actually done that in a low percent run, and
okay, I wasn't
it
sure
wasn't fun.
I remember, yeah, you
also
were
done
on the low percent grind for a while.
I have actually also done that, so I wasn't sure. But
yeah, so I guess we're both in the same boat then.
But yeah, so other stuff I'm doing. I am like a big fan of competitive randomizer. So Super Metroid Randomizer League that's going on. A Link to the Past fall randomizer tournament is going on, which is pretty cool because it's featuring a variety of different game modes, not just the same kind of randomizer every time. So I'm most likely going to make the top 32 bracket for that. And also in the Link to the Past Super Metroid crossover randomizer tournament, which if you're not familiar with that, that mashes both games into one ROM. And that also actually has a prize pool.
Yeah.
Also sponsored by Vi. So
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, GG, and again, you're not knocked out of this tournament. Your next opponent will be Typo, another really cool dude from the community. So I'm looking forward to seeing that race. Do you have anything else you kind of want to say before we let you go?
Not really anything I can think of. It was cool to try this out for kind of a different audience that is more different, used to other things.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you. We'll be seeing you throughout the losers bracket. I have a feeling you're gonna win out. You're gonna take it. You're gonna take the whole thing.
We'll see you.
Gotta
Yeah,
have
thank you.
faith. Anytime, I believe.
Okay, so Elm, thank you very much, man. GG. Adam, I'll let you have the last word. I just want to say thank you again to Cheese and everybody involved with Speedrun channel here, getting these races on the channel. It was a lot of fun. Adam, thank you for doing commentary with me tonight. Again, my name is Kip. Hope you guys all have an excellent Friday. And Adam, I'll let you play us out.
All right, this has been Adam Ferrari 64 on commentary with Kip. Both runners, shout outs to both runners. They played really. It's definitely not an easy category. And a shout outs to our sponsor, Vi.gg. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. And we're going to head to the outro now. So thank you all for watching. And